All right, good morning or afternoon to everyone. Welcome to our NAPPC Pollinator Electric Power Award webinar for today. I hope you all are excited to get ready to learn about some great folks and some great projects and programs. I'm just going to give it just 1 second to make sure folks are gathering on. We have a couple people in our waiting room logging in. All righty. All right. So, for those of you who may or may not know, my name is Shannon Farmer. I am the manager of the North American Pollinator Protection Campaign, or NAPPC, which is the one of the administrators of this award. And we have this award every year to really this and other awards to be able to celebrate some of the wonderful work that folks are doing for pollinators in fields that you might not automatically think as pollinator focused. And the reason why we started this is really to just encourage folks that you can make a difference for pollinators and wildlife and conservation anywhere that you are. So we're so glad that you all are here to be able to join us and talk about some of the wonderful initiatives that have been happening in the last couple of years. With that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so just as an overview for our outline for today, if you're wondering what we're going to be talking about, what we're doing today, today we're just going to go through a little bit of a welcome from some of the folks who are key components of this award. Then we'll kind of give you an introduction to what specifically the Pollinator Electric Power Award is. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but hopefully it'll be a great way for you all to learn a little bit more. Then we'll go into Tennessee Valley Authority Spotlight. Then we'll go into our Sacramento Municipal Utility District Spotlight, and then we'll have a little Q&A session for you all to be able to ask any questions that you have for our past award winners or us as the NAPPC administrator or EPRI as the co-sponsors of this award. All right, so just a little bit of kind of logistics before we really get into things. If you all aren't as familiar with the Zoom platform, this symposium is going to be all in webinar mode. It is recorded so that we can be able to share it out to any folks who didn't get a chance to be able to join us live today. If you would like to see the audio settings can be found in your lower left side of the control panel. Located at the bottom of your screen, you can click on the Q&A function and type a question to a presenter. And you can feel free to wait until our presenters will go ahead and answer that live whenever you answer that question. But if you have questions while they're presenting, you can feel free to go ahead and put it in the Q&A function. And if any questions don't get answered because we run out of time, or if you go, oh man, I had a question that I didn't get to ask for later, my email is right at the bottom of that chat, napc@pollinator.org. You can go ahead and email me and I'll make sure your question gets to the correct person. So just make sure when you email me, you let me know who that question is for, and I'll make sure I get it to the right folks and they can get in contact with you. Pretty easy, right? Perfect. All right. Last and not least, a little bit more into the NAPPC program. Of course, as I said, it is the North American Pollinator Protection Campaign. And our mission is to really encourage the health of resident and migratory pollinating animals all across North America. NAPPC members include respected scientists, conservationists, government officials, land managers, corporations, and more. Really, our goal is to get everybody in a room and talk about the issues and challenges that are being shown for those pollinators and find avenues to be able to find solutions together, because ultimately that's what we want. We want to be able to protect the pollinators. So in order to do that, we do feel like it's important for us to be able to have communication across the lines to be able to make sure that everyone's in the room and we can make some sort of difference for that pollinator conservation. So thank you again for you all being here. And we'll get right into our award. And here to talk a little bit more about our award, I have my colleague, James Hart, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the specifics, but I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Yeah, hey everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is James Hart. I'm a conservation manager at Pollinator Partnership and the co-chair of the NAPPC Pollinators on Managed Lands Task Force, which helps to sort of promote and manage this award. I wanted to give you a little bit of background on this Electric Power Award, which is now in its seventh year. So this award is co-managed by the North American Pollinator Protection Campaign, as well as EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute. So it's really meant to shine a spotlight on exemplary pollinator conservation projects taking place on electric power related lands. So this can include projects such as pollinator habitat plantings around generation facilities or substations. You can think things like solar meadows or altered vegetation management along rights of ways that improve the biodiversity of the area. And this can happen on a range of lands as long as that land is directly related to electric power generation or transmission. So you'll see some great examples from past awardees in just a few moments. And this award aims to recognize these great projects as well as to encourage and incentivize other companies or organizations to take on this kind of work. So yeah, next slide. Great. So, oh, actually, sorry, one slide back. Great, thanks. So yeah, there are a number of benefits of winning this award. So along with award plaque that's awarded at the annual NAPPC conference, which is going to happen this year in October. Awardees also get a feature story in the EPRI Journal, which reaches a wide audience within the industry. You also get an award badge like the one that you see on the screen here. This is sort of a logo that you can use in social media posts or other web materials to promote the fact that an organization has won the award. And then there's also just the kind of stakeholder recognition for the hard work that was done to implement this kind of project. So now next slide. So yeah, there are a few important things that I should highlight about this award. First is this award is not monetary, so it does not come with an award of funds. It comes with those things that I mentioned on the last slide. It's also for a specific project rather than a program or an agency's efforts overall. So it has to focus on a specific effort at a specific location, like at a certain generation facility or stretch of a right of way. It's also a highly selective award, and we want to maintain its rigor. So if we do not receive any qualified applicants in a given year, we might choose not to award anyone that year. So we want to make sure it's going to projects that really do deserve it. And the way that this award works is a project is nominated, but self-nominations are accepted and encouraged. So if there is an organization that you can nominate them, but an organization or agency can also very easily nominate themselves if they are interested in the award and feel that they are qualified for it. And then on the next slide, just a few notes about award criteria, sort of what we're looking for when we review this, the applicants in a given year. So we will put together a review committee made up of experts in this field, in entomology, pollinator ecology, and land management. So when that review committee comes together and meets and reviews all the award applications, there's several categories that they're looking into. So those four are, the first one is looking at long-term commitment. So we're looking for projects that have a clear and sustained commitment from their managers and funders. And that's really important in just getting that project to the point where it is, but also we're thinking of long-term commitment into the future as well. And so because of this, projects that are really early on in development or sort of in the planning phase still are not well qualified. The second criteria is effective vegetation management practices. So is the project utilizing the tools that will really make a difference for pollinators, and other wildlife. We also look at what kind of education and stakeholder engagement the project takes on. So if they get the community involved, like in recreation at the site or in educational programs, that's a big plus. And finally, the review committee will look at the real world impact, kind of looking at the data and the numbers around the project that's been collected through monitoring efforts. So if the project has documented benefits for pollinators and biodiversity in general at the site, and shown that through effective monitoring, then they will receive more points in the scoring and review process. And then just a few important dates for this year's award. So the award submission window is currently open and it'll close on July 17th. So still about a month and a half to submit entries into this. And then we'll gather our review committee later in the summer and later July or August and have an award announcement by early fall. So those are the main kind of points that I wanted to cover, and I wanted to hand it over to Katie Surrey of the Electric Power Research Institute to talk a little bit more about their involvement.
Thanks, James. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Special thanks to James and Shannon and the NAPPC team for your guys' support and their help in organizing and hosting this webinar. So for those who don't know me, my name is Katie Surrey, and I am the program manager for the Power and Pollinator program at EPRI, which is the Electric Power Research Institute, who's the official sponsor of the Electric Power Award. And briefly, for those who aren't familiar, EPRI is an independent nonprofit organization that's dedicated to advancing safe, reliable, affordable, and environmentally responsible electricity through research and development. The Electric Power Award itself is a celebration for energy companies that are demonstrating outstanding leadership in creating, restoring, and maintaining pollinator-friendly habitats. I would be remiss at this point if I did not formally acknowledge and express gratitude to my predecessor, Dr. Jessica Fox, who was the previous program manager of the Power and Pollinators program and who helped establish this award in 2020. After she noticed there was an absence of any formal recognition for this notable pollinator conservation work that the utility companies were doing. While the award is itself an opportunity to celebrate energy projects that are effectively supporting pollinators, the goal is actually a lot broader than that. As we're going to hear in a little bit from some of the past awardees, the award itself is not merely symbolic. It's also a tool that helps build both internal and external support for pollinators for conservation, and it gives companies a platform to better share their stories. Additionally, the application process is itself an opportunity for companies to continue to expand their impact, and this can be beneficial even for projects that don't win or the projects that might be eligible in the future. Projects and applicants can evaluate their performance of their existing pollinator initiatives by measuring themselves against the award's rigorous scientific-based evaluation that James mentioned. And the process eliminates strengths and areas for improvement and gives them a chance to make changes that both improve their chances of potentially winning a future round of the award and also, more importantly, increasing the beneficial impact for pollinators. Thanks again for joining us today. We're excited to be working with NAPPC again for another year of sponsoring the Electric Power Award and continuing to help companies amplify their impacts of their dedication to protecting pollinators. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Katie. And next up, we have our first presenter, Suzanne Fisher from the Tennessee Valley Authority. She's going to be describing some of the work that TVA has done and talk about some of the reasons that they won the award back in 2024. So I'll hand it over to Suzanne.
Great, thank you. Let me pull up my presentation here real quick. Yeah, so my name is Suzanne Fisher, and I'm from the Tennessee Valley Authority. I'm located in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm a senior program manager in our Environment and Sustainability group. And just a little bit of background information on TVA. We are a quasi-governmental wholesale power provider. We operate in 7 states in the Southeast United States. And so our mission is a little bit different. We have not only electricity production, but we also have a mission of economic development and environmental stewardship, and we manage the Tennessee River through our system. So just a little bit about us. The Douglas Dam Reservation project, we won the award back in 2024. And just a little bit of background information on the project itself. This is the picture of one of the fields where we had our habitat enhancement project. You can see we've mowed a little trail down through the area, but I'll get into a little bit more about the vegetation management itself. The Douglas Dam Reservation is located in Sevier County in Tennessee, and it's along the French Broad River. And it's one of our one of our popular dam reservations because of the proximity of it to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. You drive by this dam on the way into the park, and so a lot of times people will stop off the reservation to not only see the view of the dam itself, but we also have a campground facility there. We have hiking trails, and then as you'll see, we also have a variety of different land use types at this area, and that's what made it unique for doing this project at. We're going on a decade here of this project, so it has been long term. The picture you see here, or the overlook at the dam, prior to this project, this area had trees in front of it and had grown up. And so part of the project involved, the initial phase of it involved a little bit of site prep. So we were able to make this observation area more viewable. What you can't see in the background is the visitors center and the pavilion that we have and picnic tables above this area that allows the public to come and picnic and recreate. And so the overlook itself of the dam provides not only a place for people to come to hang out and recreate, but then also hike and walk and camp. And it's very multi-use and gets a lot of visitors. So we thought this was a good location for the project itself. And then public input for us was that they wanted to make this public land more, amenable to them. And they actually wanted to have more opportunities for wildlife viewing. So the total footprint of this project is approximately 69 acres, and it's all on the dam reservation, but then we also have some transmission power lines that run through this area. And so we had part of those areas on the project. Let me show you a picture that'll give you an idea of what we're talking about. So you see the different outlines of parcels in red. The overlook is the one that's kind of in the middle there. That says Douglas Dam Reservation Overlook. That's one parcel, and then the other parcels, the square boxes above that, just above the dam entrance road, is there's some previous agricultural fields that we licensed, and we wanted to try to use this portion of the project to do some testing on the fields that were previously ag fields with fescue. So we also developed part of these parcels as the pollinator area to with the University of Tennessee to help do some research on some of the use of that area. And then, as you can tell, we have a couple of power line rights of ways down below on the bottom half of the screen. And so there's probably about 5 different areas on the dam reservation itself that we worked in, which makes it a little bit unique. Let's see. This is just a very high level overview of what it took for us to get to the point where we are now a decade out later. The first 3 years of any sort of habitat enhancement or pollinator project usually involves a lot of site prep, and that's the labor intensive part where you're getting everything ready, you're planting, you're having to come back through and do a couple more plantings, and it usually takes a few years for it to get established. So the first couple of years in phase 1 is really when we did our site preparation. We started at the fescue fields to begin with, and then we moved down to the overlook. And it took us a couple of years to get those areas prepped and then everything planted. We started the power line right away. That was I guess, the more along the lines of the 3rd year. And so that project's a little bit further behind on these, but same kind of deal where a lot of the site prep for that. the phase two through 2019, 2021 really was just implementing the monitoring and maintenance. And one of the other unique aspects about this project is that we are able to do prescribed burns on some of these areas, especially the overlook, to help with the maintenance of invasive plants. And we do that every 3 to 5 years. If there is an opportunity where we can't burn, then we do mowing, and then we do spot treatments if we need to do that. So that's really kind of the second phase, just trying to dial that in and get those mowing and burning regimes dialed in. And then the third phase that we really focused on the past couple of years has been on the outreach and education portion. This is a picture of the overlook now with some of our vegetation. Very beautiful area. I'm going to show you our slide of our seed mix, so you can get a picture of what all we planted. But here, this is an interesting picture of our prescribed burns that we use to help with the fields. And we do that on the previous ag fields, and then we do that at the overlook. And we have a burn crew that does that as part of TVA. We have areas on other parcels of our land where they'll go across and use prescribed burning. TVA manages 293,000 acres of public land. And so our fire crew goes out on a variety of our different land types, mainly our grasslands, and helps manage with prescribed burning. So and it helps stimulate the native seed bank. And that's one of the other important aspects of this project is through fire and through, manual site prep. We were able to get a lot of stuff that we didn't even plant just from the use of prescribed burns. This is our seed list that we planted. And I think there's, gosh, I can't even remember now how many there are. I want to think it's 15, but it looks like it's more than that. But this is the one that we use. We get it from one of our local native seed suppliers called Brownstone, and we use this mix or we tweak it a little bit for some of our other sites, depending on what the use is. Some of the sites we want just native warm season grasses, and then some of them we want to have more pollinator plants in them. But there's a copy of our list of some of our seed selection. For our education and outreach, this portion of the award, I felt like, we put up some signage. We had signage that showed, yes, this is a pollinator area, to describe to the public what was going on, because a lot of times, especially on a dam reservation, the public will just say, well, why aren't you mowing? It looks unkempt. So we wanted to put signs up so people would know why we were managing it the way we were, and then the benefits of that, especially for the biodiversity. Our region is one of the most biologically diverse areas in the world, and so we want to make sure that everybody that comes and visits our recreation areas knows what's in their backyard and then why we're doing the things we do. So we took this as a chance to, get out and talk about why we're planting things, what some things are that people can see, and in other aspects and other different parts of the dam reservation, we'll focus on the terrestrial species as well. So we'll talk about animals, but in this portion up near the overlook, we wanted to focus on the pollinators and talk a little bit more about why we're doing the things we're doing. So this sign was made and it hangs up at our pavilion that's above the overlook I was telling you about. So that gives us a chance to talk there on the side about it. And then we get out in the community. We're going to be going out coming up in June in a couple of weeks for National Pollinator Week. We're going to be going out and doing our garden buzz again. It's a celebration of pollinators. We partner with our local University of Tennessee in 3 locations across the state. We set up and we hand out native plants, and we bring lots of people in the community together, master gardeners, a lot of just people in the various communities that want to come out and learn a little bit more about gardening and the importance of pollinators. So you can see here I am handing out some of our seeds, and then we also hand out native plants, and then we even try to put a little bit of humor into it and get a local radio station that has a bee as a mascot. We invited them when the news came out. So just trying to make it fun, let people understand the importance of pollinators, and then show our success through some of the signage that we have up. We also do the Southeast Bumblebee Atlas. It's a citizen science monitoring program, and the Xerxes Society, I believe, runs that. So we try to get out members of the community if they want to go out and do a little volunteer day of citizen science and help us collect and identify bumblebees. That was what that very first picture was at the beginning. So we do get a chance to get the public out and monitor as well. So I think our success stories is having not only a place where the public wants to come and look at the wildlife and then look at the view shed, but then also the habitat creation and enhancement. And then all of these different parcels are kind of connected together on this one dam reservation. So it gives us a platform to talk about the story of why we're managing the land we're managing. I wanted to quickly talk about some of the new things that we're doing as well in pollinator space. Just 2 slides. We're doing a landowner conservation program, and why this matters to us is because of the adjacent, if we have easements on right-of-ways, the adjacent property owners or property owners that are impacted by it. This is a way for us to partner with them and to educate them on, if their land is on and under the right of way, maybe we can work with them to get some, native grasslands or native species there planted, and then educate them about some of the rare species that may be in that area and how we can all work together to manage the land and habitat for some of these rare plant populations. What we have found is that through these pollinator plantings under our right of ways is that it's often we find that because you do integrated vegetation management, it actually provides an opportunity for some of these rare plant communities to come back that were overcrowded before. So educating the public on that, and mainly our outcomes on that are, guidance, education, partnerships, and restoration on the lands. And because we have these areas that provide opportunities for pollinators on electric power right away. So that is my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take questions. I'll stop sharing so I can look at the chat as well.
Great. Thanks so much, Suzanne. That was awesome to hear about all the success stories and things you've taken on since you won the award in 2024. So we will get to all the questions shortly. Just after the next presentation, we'll answer all the questions live. So yeah, if you have any questions for Suzanne, feel free to enter those into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. But next up, we have a couple representatives from the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. So I'll hand it over to Kathleen Ave to kick us off.
Great. Thanks very much, James. Nice to see you, Suzanne. It's always wonderful to hear about your project and your work. And good morning, everyone. My name is Kathleen Ave. I work in the power generation department at SMUD, and I manage our internal biodiversity and habitat working group. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of background about how SMUD got into this work before I hand it over to Hannah to talk about the specific project that won this award last year that we're very grateful for. For those of you who don't know, SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, is the 6th largest publicly owned utility in the U.S., but still rather small compared to a lot of the multi-state investor-owned utilities that exist around the country. We serve just under 700,000 customers and manage just under 500 miles of transmission lines and just under 4,000 miles of distribution lines. So still a lot of work out there. We've been members of the Power and Pollinators group with EPRI since 2019 and really have worked to integrate pollinator habitat work with our into the work that we're doing to meet our ambitious carbon reduction goals. And increasingly, we're also exploring land-based carbon storage opportunities that can also support biodiversity. So pollinator habitat has a really key role to play in that. And this Pine Hill project is so unique. It's a really special collaborative effort that you're going to hear about between multiple public agencies and SMUD's vegetation management team. And I really want to acknowledge the leadership of Eric Brown, who's not with us today, but he has been working with the Pollinator Partnership for many, many years on multiple projects, as well as other academic partners. And it really is his leadership that resulted in what you're going to hear today from Hannah, including the fact that he hired her as a student assistant back in 2023. So she's been with SMUD since then and continues to work with us with our contractor, Sierra Services. She has a bachelor's in biology, a master's in molecular and cellular biology, but as you're going to see from this presentation, she works with biology on multiple levels. So I'm going to hand it over to Hannah to share the details of this very unique project.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction, Kathleen. Really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name's Hannah. I work for Sierra Integrated Services, and we're the current integrated vegetation management contractor for SMUD. So we've gotten to be involved in the management of this project, and then also when I was working directly for SMUD, I was able to be on that side of it as well. So it's been awesome to see how it's continued to develop. So I'll start by giving a little bit of background on the project itself, and then I'll wrap up by talking a little bit more specifically about the application process. So just to kind of orient us with where exactly we're talking about. So that pin in the bottom left-hand side there is the California State Capitol building, and that's right in the heart of the city of Sacramento. And our project area lies about 30 to 40 miles northeast of that in El Dorado County. And SMUD has a lot of its electric transmission facilities running through that region. And the specific project area or right-of-way that we're talking about is the one that traverses Pine Hill Preserve. And this is a collection of about 5,000 acres scattered throughout El Dorado County that are federally managed based on the presence of rare, threatened, endangered, or other special status plant species. So SMUD has a portion of its electric transmission right-of-way that runs through that preserve, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So there are a lot of different management considerations here. I'm just going to briefly run through these just to give you a little bit more context on the area. So these transmission lines provide power to hundreds of thousands of community members. So we have a responsibility to manage our vegetation around those assets in a way that is conducive to supporting that effort. This area is also considered an extreme fire risk zone by the California Public Utilities Commission, so reducing fuel buildup is a biggie here. We also want to protect those special status plants, so we have a total of 3 that occur within the right-of-way, and then there are more collectively on the preserve as well. But not only do we want to focus on those, we also kind of want to take a zoomed out picture and think, how can we promote biodiversity in the ecosystem in general? And then lastly, of course, one of our main goals is to continue to develop best management practices, not only for us internally, but also for preserve sites in general. This is the first time in the preserve's history where herbicide has been allowed to be applied, so that's something, of course, we want to thoroughly document. And also, we don't have a ton of information on utility right-of-way management and how that impacts our ecosystems on the West Coast compared to the large data set that we have on the East Coast. So continuing to develop that data set through projects like this is also a primary goal. And how we achieve these simultaneously is through integrated vegetation management, which is using a variety of different tools to manage the site and doing that in a site-specific manner to achieve these goals. So what exactly has this looked like on the preserve in terms of kind of like a broad timeline? So since the transmission lines were installed in the 50s, there have been, of course, the selective removals of certain tall growing species and other work to keep the area in compliance. However, the first large-scale disturbance to the site occurred in 2020 when this portion of the right-of-way and others throughout the region was masticated as part of a wildfire mitigation project with CAL FIRE and other participating agencies. So this really gave us a blank slate to decide how best we wanted to manage that reemergence of vegetation moving forward. So SMUD worked with the various state, federal, local agencies, and other stakeholders to develop a plan for selective herbicide treatments to help manage the site moving forward, which again had not been done in the preserve's history. So this has been done since 2023 in partnership with our other tools like our selective manual removals and things like that. And the goal here really is to create this mosaic-like habitat where we are eliminating large clumps of woody, flammable species while allowing others to remain intact for habitat value. So this image on the bottom here really demonstrates that selective approach, where that red bud on the right there has been treated with herbicide, while the one directly adjacent to it has been remained intact. In that landscape shot there on the right as well, you can kind of see the different habitat patches here. So in that drainage area, we actually have allowed it to remain undisturbed due to the proximity to the lines. So again, really just wanting to promote as much diversity at the site as possible. So speaking of our rare plant species here, I alluded that we have 3 that occur within our right-of-way. So the one on the left is the Bisbee Peak Rush Rose. This is considered sensitive and rare by the Bureau of Land Management. The photo in the center is the Lane's butterweed, which is federally listed as threatened. And then the one on the right is the Eldorado mule's ears, which is endemic, meaning that it grows in El Dorado County and nowhere else in the world to our knowledge, which is pretty incredible. And it's also considered sensitive and rare. So how exactly have these treatments impacted these plant populations? Because, of course, that's something we've been carefully measuring over time. So here is a map of the special status plant survey that was conducted just prior to mastication in 2020. The yellow, orange, and green polygons are our 3 rare plants. And then here is the data that was collected just a few months ago, considering those same rare plant populations. So as you can see here, those species have expanded following that mastication. And this really demonstrates that after 3 full years of herbicide application, that we're not having any adverse acute impact to those rare plant species, which is a really good positive feedback that we're getting into the program. So this is something we'll continue to monitor. We're also partnering with Sacramento State and other research institutions like Pollinator Partnership to develop some more formal studies here so we can better quantify what we see anecdotally. So I'm just going to thumb through some pictures that we have of some pollinators we've captured not only on our rare plants, but kind of just in the preserve at large. So we've seen a wide variety of species, which is really cool. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly just for the sake of time, but if anyone wants me to go back to the end to look at something a little closer, just let me know. And now I'm going to go into some trail camera photos that we've captured. This is through a project done with Sacramento State currently. So a lot of amazing animals, very ecologically important to California that we've captured, which is really amazing. These photos are from around this time last year. And then the next 2 slides I'm going to show you were recent data that they just sent over about a couple weeks ago. So hot off the press, haven't been shown to anyone yet. So really amazing. We're seeing a lot of the same animals coming back to the site and also capturing some ones that we hadn't seen before. And I think this is also a good metric of a healthy ecosystem, right? Everything builds upon each other, starting from the plants, the pollinators, and kind of moving upwards. And by creating these habitat corridors through this right-of-way management, we are giving them access to the early successional plant landscape that we're also maintaining. So everything kind of works together to create this healthy ecosystem, which is amazing. So we'll continue to track this and share results as we get them. So I just wanted to end off by thanking our partners who make all of this possible, of course. So from our researchers to our practitioners who are actually out there managing that vegetation, our partners with our federal agencies and others, our internal folks at SMUD and Sierra, and just everyone else who is interested in this project and allows us to share this work like through this webinar. So thank you for being here and listening. So that was kind of an overview on the project itself. Lastly, I just wanted to take a minute or two to talk about the application process specifically, kind of give my 2 cents, what I learned throughout it. So although it is a bit of a time commitment, of course, to put together the materials, it is completely worth the effort. If you do receive the award, just the credibility and the momentum you have moving forward to expand upon the project or do others similar to it is really invaluable. And even if you don't receive it, you now have this kind of complete narrative that you can use for other award applications, presentations, grants, things like that. So it really is worth the time put into it. Also, if you've been, sharing work about your amazing project already, you likely already have some of those materials put together, so it may not even be as big of a lift as you initially imagine. I'd also just encourage you not to compare your project to past awardees. There have been a lot of diverse projects in scope and size that have been awarded through this, so, even if it's not a huge area like Pine Hill Preserve, if you're doing some really special work for pollinators, I would encourage you to apply. Just some tips for completing the application itself. I'd say having a lots of reviewers is good. So having that diverse partner input is really gonna lead to you having the most complete, well-developed application possible. Also, having good supporting information, I think, is important. So, what maps, imagery, or other materials can you include to really help support your narrative and illustrate that to the reviewers? And then lastly, having a central database where we already had data associated with the project stored, like imagery, survey data, background information, things like that was really helpful when we were trying to compile all the information. So whether that be like a Google Drive, SharePoint, whatever, I think that is, a good strategy, not only for this application process, but just in general for housekeeping purposes. So that was my 2 cents. Thank you guys for listening, and we'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Hannah. That's awesome. Yes, and speaking of questions, all of my panelists, you can come on back on screen, come off mute, because we're going to go right into our Q&A portion. So before we go do that, I do want to make sure that I thank all of you for being willing to come on today and talk a little bit more about your own process, your own experience with the NAPPC Award, and answer any questions that we have. So thank you again so much. I've learned a lot even through this process. I'm one of the people who gets to sort through all the applications, so it's a lot of fun to be able to see you all during the award presentation and also after this through this webinar. So thank you all. And we do have a question from Heidi Wilhelm. She asks, is there an effort to retrofit existing solar farms to include pollinator plantings? And I'm assuming since it wasn't to anyone, I think wasn't specifically to any of our presenters, I'm just going to leave it up to whoever feels most comfortable and confident in answering that question.
I responded quickly in the chat as well and can share just a little bit because SMUD's done both. I will say that working after a project has been constructed definitely limits your options, and it's much harder, especially if you want to try to activate the area's inter-array, between the solar panels themselves. And again, I'm speaking from a West Coast arid landscape perspective, so this may be very different, in other climates, but in those kind of projects, we're finding that it'll be much more advantageous to focus on the perimeter areas. We've established some native plant hedgerows around one of our projects in particular, and also a pesticide drift barrier inside that project adjacent to a vineyard that was using neonicotinoids. So it is possible to do work on already constructed projects, and I agree, very worthy of trying to do that because there are many that are in existence. But much easier to work upfront and try to integrate good seed mixes, good soil health practices, good planning for space and operations much earlier in the process, if it's possible.
That was great. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Does anyone else want to add on to that question? Or answer, I guess. Answer to that question. All right. I have a question for you all, whoever feels most comfortable answering. And in the meantime, feel free for all of our guests who are here, you can feel free to use the Q&A function and use it at any time to ask any questions. But my question for you all, what was kind of your biggest takeaway with this process, whether that was a particular, challenge with your project that you were like, oh, wish I had done something different, or something that, ended up working out a little bit differently than you originally anticipated? Do you have any stories that you could share?
I mean, I think the big thing is to make sure that you have, like Hannah had mentioned, having a location where you store all of your files together, but also in those, project files, the sort of like lessons learned and documenting cost savings and documenting, basically the lessons learned from year to year. I think that's really important because 10 years goes by really fast and people come and go. And I think having a good organized structure for keeping that information is really important. And it's often not the things that you think about when you're, a project manager on the ground and you're trying to, you know, do all sorts of on the ground work, but the administrative work, is just equally as important as you're moving through and you're trying to do business case justifications and things like that. So I just want to put a plug in for that, because even if you get the project on the ground, it's successful, being able to tell the story about it and quickly find the information, as Hannah pointed out during the application process. Just having that information all together and organized, I think is really important for these types of projects, because sometimes you're not doing one, you're doing many across the lands that you own. And so I just think that's kind of important, kind of a no-brainer, but one of those things I throw out there.
No, that's definitely a great thought. And I will say um, from the administrator of the award side of things, James and I have talked about this over the years, and Katie, about just like we try to every year try to rethink about the way that we're asking certain questions, because I think a lot of times people do end up doing a lot more pollinator helpful work for not even just this award, a lot of our awards, and just don't realize it. And they just like, as they're going through the process, they're like, oh, is that considered something great for it? And we're like, yeah, tell us about that. Please do. So that's definitely a good note to be able to have. And thank you for that encouragement for sure. Okay. I see Heidi followed up with another question and said, specifically to Kathleen, she asked, do you have any suggestions on where I could find more information on this?
We have a little bit of information about that project that I mentioned posted on our pollinator website, smud.org/pollinators, although not that much. So yeah, Heidi, you're welcome to email me at kathleen.ave@smud.org, and we could connect if you have specific questions. And
I can also jump.
I don't know of a resource. Actually, maybe EPRI has one. Katie might know, kind of weighing the pros and cons of developing an existing solar projects versus, greenfield or new development. So
Yeah, I was gonna just jump in and add to that. Sorry to cut you off, Kathleen, but yeah. So EPRI, we've been doing a lot of work with different companies that we work with, such as SMUD, to do research on co-benefits, feasibility studies, technical innovations, testing, stuff like that. And so we have a whole set of, slate of research projects that are ongoing and some that have been done in the past. The only issue is that some of our research, unfortunately, is often located behind a paywall. So it is kind of difficult for the public to get access to. I would also, Heidi, send me an email as well. Shannon can kind of put you in touch with me, and I can try to send you some of the public facing stuff we have that can probably maybe help you, point you in the right direction at least. And then, yeah, definitely following up with people like Kathleen, who are kind of in a, on the ground, kind of more expertise, kind of experiential role, would be probably a great place to start too. And I can potentially put you in touch with other folks in my own, within EPRI as well, that might have more insight too.
Perfect. Thank you for jumping in on that. And yeah, if you didn't quite catch those emails, Heidi, we have your email on the webinar. I can always put you in contact with them. We also do have a cool resource on pollinator partnerships page that I wanted to share with you. I'm going to go ahead and share this link and put it in the chat for you all to be able to see. Oh, it's not letting me. Hold on. Because Pollinator Partnership does have a couple of resources as well that you all can look at, and hopefully that's helpful. Okay, there we go. Now we're working with me. So there's definitely lots of resources that are out there, but you can always feel free to contact us specifically if you have any questions. That's the whole point of this webinar, is to be able to kind of put faces to the names behind the screens that you see, and answer any questions that you have for this process. Which with that, I wanted to ask kind of a maybe more specific question to James and Katie as the folks who are kind of maybe behind the scenes more specifically in the process of like reviewing a lot of these awards. Do you have any like, I don't know, advice or suggestions or things that you've noticed with like applicants and best things to maybe overcome, or challenges that you might see that you might advise them on with maybe, I don't know, how to get, actually, let me just stop there. Let me just let you answer that question, because I had another follow-up that I think will take us in a different direction.
Well, James, I'll let you speak first, just in case you have anything in the top of your head.
Sure. Yeah. Well, one thing that the first thing that comes to mind, and this was touched on a little bit earlier, but I think just including all of the information that could be relevant in the application is really important. We have had times in the past where with this award or other NAPPC awards, we'll be reviewing it, and it's a project or an organization that we might know about outside of this award application, and we know there are certain things that that group has done that are really cool and important for pollinators that aren't mentioned in the award application, and we can't, just for fairness' sake, we can't consider those external things that weren't included in the application in our review. But yeah, sometimes we kind of wish like, oh yeah, if they're doing that kind of work, they should get the credit for it in the application. So I think a thorough application with everything that is being done by the agency or organization is really important. So I guess when in doubt, include more information rather than less.
Yeah, I think that would probably be my main piece of advice too, is kind of err on the side of being more descriptive than cutting things out, even if it does take a little bit of extra time. I think oftentimes where I'm speaking for Shannon and James, who actually do the actual deciding, but I've heard you guys' conversations about some of the applications in the past, and I think where confusion arises is sometimes just like, as James pointed out, like we're unsure of kind of something might be included, but it's not really given any context or kind of looped in fully into the application or the project that they're describing, but it might be very relevant. But again, just kind of taking off the expert glasses and just pretend that you're talking to someone who reality doesn't know anything about this project. We'd rather hear from the bare bones up, describe everything as thoroughly as you can, so that we can then make a more adequate assessment. Because unfortunately, we're not able to actually go visit these sites in person for this process, as much as that would be really, really awesome to be able to do that. We're limited on just getting like a textual description, a 2D representation, if you would, about a 3D situation and process. And oftentimes, we understand this is years, months, hours of labor and time that goes into this. And so it's probably easy to kind of forget that like there's a whole story behind this like snapshot that we're giving us right now. But when in doubt, include more, so that we can then have even better picture of what exactly we're evaluating and how. And then I think also, like, I think Hannah mentioned this, and I think it's a great piece of advice of, just because you think something might not might be a good candidate, you never know. We always try to tell people, like, we'd rather have you apply, and there's no restrictions that if you apply, you don't get it. You can't reapply in future years and learn from the experience you get from, getting the feedback, maybe not winning it this year, but you try next year and you take what you've learned, you apply it, then you get reevaluated and you win that year. It's, we've had several people reapply over several years, and each time their applications get stronger, get better. And so we definitely recommend people to, if you're even thinking about it and you think you have a project that might fit, give it a shot and try. There's no harm in doing that. And again, it won't knock against you. And if anything, it gives you more feedback and more insight into ways you can improve, and then maybe take that back and even implement some of them on the ground, which would be really awesome too.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much, Katie and James. And I think we have time for one more question, another question from yours truly. And this is more for Suzanne, Hannah, and Kathleen. I was wondering if you had any advice for anybody who might be applying, who might have like great programs or want to start great programs that might benefit pollinators, but don't really know how to start the conversation, or might be coming against some people who might be maybe a little bit more uncertain about trying to start a program that would maybe benefit some of these efforts. Any thoughts or advice that you're willing and able to share?
Yeah, I can just jump in real quick. I think partnering with agencies and institutions who have expertise in this field, so like Pollinator Partnership, EPRI, local academic institutions who are really going to bring that, diverse perspective and expertise, and also just lend that credibility to your project, will really help steer you in the right direction and help when it comes to sharing data about the project and making management decisions. So including those people from onset and incorporating as many diverse perspectives as feasible and reasonable, I think is a good strategy.
I agree. And I would also add networking inside of your own organization is really, really important and gratifying. Actually, it can make this work a lot of fun when you have other people in other departments who care about this work and want to see it move forward and recognize there's a business case and there's also just a good human work case. And that's really important. For all the species we share this planet with. And so finding those people and organizing with them can really, really help. To keep you going, because you will find opposition and people who are indifferent, and that can be frustrating in the moment. So knowing that you've got your people, to work with to keep things moving over time is really beneficial.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with both of those statements. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. That is essentially what we're here for, while we have these type of awards, so we can find the right people and hopefully go across networks and all types of folks. That's the whole point of my program with NAPPC, being able to find those, ability to be able to find a common ground of, hey, we want to protect pollinators. How do we do it across industry, across borders? That's the whole point. So I'm so glad that you all are able to show your projects and be able to participate in this whole process. And I think we are just about out of time. So wanted to thank you all once again for all the work that you've done the last couple of years and support you for future projects. Please, please, please keep us up to date as to what you're doing. We would always love to continue to partner with you as time goes on. And for anyone in the audience, if you still had questions that you weren't sure about, again, you can email me at nappc@pollinator.org, and I'll make sure that I get you in contact with the right folks. But thank you all so much again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.